So we're having a talk today to Phil Pickwick, an AVRO man.
Yep.
From what year? What year did you start AVROs?
1951.
To 2000?
To 2000.
Right.
I was the only person to go on to be 65, my 65th birthday.
Right. So where was you born?
I was born in Urmston, and I was educated at the Royal Technical College at Salford until I was 16, and the headmaster got me a job for an interview at AVRO. AVRO at that time had two apprenticeships, a trade apprentice or an aeronautical apprentice. And the aeronautical apprenticeship, depending on the quality of your examination results. My results hadn't appeared, but he still said that because I'd been a junior tech lad, he would enrol me as an aeronautical apprentice. I did a one-year apprenticeship with AVRO in the training school.
Was this at Chaderton?
That was at Chaderton. I was the prize winner for the most progress made in that particular year, and then I started my trek through the works, doing various places like machine shop, manipulation, pipe bending, main assembly and things like that, until I'd spent 3.5 years at that. I'd also had a day release to go into college.
So you did a lot of practical work as well as theory stuff.
As well as theory.
Right. So you had the advantage of how to making it and how to make it sort of thing. Yeah.
And after 3.5 years, I went into the technical offices, and that completed my 5-year apprenticeship. And then the company invited me to go to the College of Aeronautics in order to get a degree in aircraft design. Of the 700 people who applied, there was something like 70 places, and I managed to gain a place. And I started a 2-year course in aeronautical design.
Where was this?
That was at the College of Aeronautics at Cranfield. I completed the 2-year Cranfield course, got the diploma, which was later made into a master's degree, and I re-entered AVRO then into the stress office. I spent 2-3 years in the stress office.
So what year would this have been?
That would be getting into the early 60s now.
Right.
About 1963, they were looking for somebody to go to India to assist in giving stress concessions on aircraft that were built by the Indians.
These were the 748s, were they?
They were 748.
Built by, was it Hindustani or somebody?
Yeah, Hindustan, yeah.
Right.
At Kanpur. And they asked me to go, and I made two periods when I was in India, giving concessions on aircraft faults. They were quite good actually, because mainly the workers in the Indian factory were mainly Indian Air Force.
So they had a good background then.
Had a good background.
Did they make the 748s complete, or were they kits?
They did it. They intended in at a later stage to build from raw materials, but in the initial stages they were building from piece parts. Piece parts were manufactured at Chaderton and sent shipped by sea to Kanpur, where they were assembled. The same with the Rolls-Royce engine; they were finger tight.
All right, so they final assembled them basically.
I was with the Indians for the prototype, the first flight of the prototype aeroplane, and also with the second aeroplane. And then I came back to work at Chaderton for a few more years on various projects. Mainly, I was in the project office where we did the project design of all various aeroplanes. We tried to compete with the likes of de Havilland and Vickers, but it was very difficult. Vickers seemed to be able to get most of the work.
Because they'd have been working on what, Vanguards, VC-10s.
Vanguards, VC-10s. We tried at Chaderton.
These, of course, were all government British BOA, CBA funded projects, weren't they?
We were not successful. Although we were building the 748 then, and at the start of Nimrod, I was asked to go to Woodford to take some responsibility for the structural design of the early Nimrod.
So this was a conversion from the Comet 4Cs.
I was given the responsibility for the pannier. I later became a section leader, in which I covered most of the components for the aircraft on the fuselage and the pannier. And then we went through the first flight of Nimrod, and about 2 or 3 years as a senior stressman. I was then asked to become the assistant chief stressman, responsible for the Nimrod.
Did you do much flying in the Nimrod, or did you view it mainly from the ground?
I hated flying. I always have done.
Oh.
I avoided it like the plague. Occasionally I was told I had to go up if there was any...
Have faith in your design.
yeah. I didn't have no, it wasn't that. It's just I didn't like it.
Right.
I never did
preferred
like
2 feet on the ground.
Yeah, I never did like flying. I became assistant chief stressman on the Nimrod, and then I was told I was needed by the design office, and I was promoted then to assistant chief designer. I later went back into the stress office to take responsibility for the back end of the 146 aircraft.
So in those days, did they have certain departments for certain aircraft? It wasn't sort of like a general design or a general stress office.
Comprised about 60 to 70 people, of which a number were allocated to various projects. I think the 146 had about 40 people on it at one stage. 40 stressmen. I mean, the total number of people on the design was getting into the hundreds.
Even though this aircraft had originally originated at Hatfield?
Yeah, we still had responsibility. Hatfield separated the aircraft. They covered the wings, the forward fuselage, the cockpit, and Woodford did the tail fuselage, the vestibule area for the rear door, and we did all the flaps and flying control surfaces of the wing. At that time, it became clear that the government wanted an amalgamation with the British Aircraft Corporation, and they wanted to form a single company. Hawker Siddeley started asset stripping, literally asset stripping, and the design then, Hawker Siddeley stopped the design of the 146 because there was no future in it for them. And when the company became British Aerospace, first thing the government did was to sponsor the remake of the 146, and all the drawings were resurrected, and I continued on that. until the early design stages. By that time, we were looking at replacements for the Shackleton aircraft, and that meant I was moved off 146 onto AEW development, and I took control of 626, which was a development aircraft for the AW for the radar.
Was that the one with the big bulbous?
Yeah,
nose?
Based on the Comet fuselage. When the contract for Nimrod was awarded, I was given responsibility for the pannier, the bomb doors, and the tail end of the Nimrod. And I carried that forth until I again was asked to be an assistant chief designer, and I was given the project of what was it called, XW, can't remember the number.
You're allowed to figure.
Yeah. But that was a comms trials aircraft. I had that for about a year, and then they made me a assistant chief designer for the entire airframe, and that was from 1979, and from 1979 until I retired in 2000 I was the assistant chief designer.
So you could be really Mr. Nimrod, could you almost? You had lots of input to it.
It was fairly mature at 79, to be honest. There was a lot of mods taking place, there was a lot of money available, and the ministry was spending money, but it was fairly mature. I don't think I could claim to be Mr. Nimrod.
Right. Yeah.
But from 79, I covered the AW, and then later on they gave us various other aeroplanes. They gave us I had the Vulcan for about 4 years. I was responsible for the Lancaster for the last 10 years. I had the Argosy, the 780, another one I had. I had the Victor for a bit.
So you had a very varied career, didn't you, to say the least? Lots of different...
Well, those aircraft that were mature, there wasn't a great deal of mods work carried out. You have to keep your eye on the airframe, and there were airframe problems that used to come up.
Of course, the Vulcan was initially designed for high altitude and ended up as a low altitude aircraft, didn't it?
Indeed, yeah,
so that would have obviously made things a little different than what it started off as.
Flight refuelling in the Falklands. I covered the very last Vulcan, which was with the RAF, which later became the 558. I've had that for a year. I wrote there was a memo required. The RAF hadn't serviced the aircraft for something like 15 years. They'd kept it going on minor servicings.
Right, yeah.
And they hadn't done a major.
Flown it on the minimum, basically. Yeah.
So they said they wanted 1 more year flying, and would the company give them a program of work? I carried out that program of work for them, and they flew it for 1 year, then retired it, and Bruntingthorpe took it.
And then the AVRO,
eventually
the Vulcan
to the sky. I spent a couple of weeks at Bruntingthorpe assessing whether the aircraft was fit to be used by the Vulcan to the sky, and we finally summarised that they'd caught it just at the right time. There was corrosion present, but there wasn't corrosion present that couldn't be
nothing
rectified.
serious. Yeah. Of course, I suspect the Vulcan lasted a lot longer than it was designed to do.
Well, yeah, the Vulcan, they had a fatigue test specimen run in a coincident with flying the Vulcan, and the fatigue specimen was the lead aeroplane, obviously. They were, as things developed on the fatigue test specimen, so they were then repaired, and the repair taken over by the RAF, and the FI, which really should have stopped around 100 FI, went to something like 240 FI. When the last Vulcan was flying, I think it had an FI of something like 220. So that meant it had 20 FI left in the life of it, and that was enough to keep the Vulcan in the sky for a few years, because they were hardly ever using a great deal of the FI.
And handling it gently, etc.
All at weight was significantly less than what it was designed to be. They couldn't do manoeuvres.
Gentle turns and keep the G down to the minimum.
Yeah, I think the maximum manoeuvre was something like 1.6 G, if I remember rightly. Whereas the original Vulcan was designed for 2.5 G. So it was all very much restricted flying.
And you finally finished in what year?
I finished in 2000, having completed 49 years. The thing that gave me great satisfaction was that of the 9,000 people that were part of the company when I first walked in, there was only me left.
Oh, blimey, so you outlasted a lot of people then, yeah. Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm sure lots of people will appreciate your little talk.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Phil. Thank you.